Hey, what's up, guys? And welcome to episode 6 of Torquem Talk. Today, we're super excited to have Jesse Thomas on. He is the owner of Picky Bars, and just learning how this guy balances work, life, and family. When it comes to life, it's a little more than most of us. He's not only an Ironman participant, which that's something else to just complete that thing. He's a 2-time champion. So we got a pro athlete that starts successful Picky Bars, and he's walking us through how he does that and how he's built to what it is today. Enjoy our conversation. All right, so I was curious, Jesse, how in the world do you balance being a professional athlete, not just any professional athlete? You have won 2 Ironmans. I have friends that compete in them to just finish them, and it consumes their life. Right. You win them.
Yeah. Well.
And not just that, but you're also a family man and a CEO of a successful food company that's called Picky Bars, where you guys have like awesome oatmeal. This is basically a staple that I live off of out in the wilderness, which is the bars, granola that you just launched. So you have all these products that are coming out. The company's growing, and you're also a professional athlete that is successful at that. How blows my. How do you balance it?
Thanks. I think a lot of help is the short answer. You know, it looks like more from the outside than it is on the inside. You know, I've got great employees that do all the legwork to keep the business going and even grow it. And I really, I inject myself in there, you know, quarterly or monthly. And I mean, I'm there every day, but I'm really like a kind of strategic guide for those guys.
The
more
visionary.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Visionary, yeah. Visionary, I think, implies more like you know what you're doing, and so, but that's how it is.
But the visionary, you know, you're a person who, or most visionaries, is like, you know, you come up with these concepts of starting the company and seeing where the market's going and what we should be doing, and maybe we should launch this type of product. Like, but there's ideas that you come up with that I'm sure your team will shoot down.
Yeah. But
they just keep on coming, and some of them they're like, that's pretty good, we should run with it.
Well, I think, you know, the interesting thing is this, you know, and it goes back to your first question, how do you do it all? This business started in spite of the fact that Lauren and I, my wife and our other co-founder, and Steph, our other co-founder, we're all competing professionally. And it was just this side project that is just now, that is really like over the 8 years that it has been in existence, it's grown to a legitimate company. But because it was always this side project, and because our source as owners and the founders, our source of income was professional athletics, it was never the focus to begin with.
And it is now?
And it is becoming for me.
Okay.
I don't think it ever has been for Lauren and Steph. They've always been a little bit less operational, at least after the first couple years. And but the nice thing that's happened because of that is the company, our employees, and the company is they're used to me not being there every day, and they're used to me and Lauren and Steph not having an operational role. And what that allows me to do as an owner is be very strategic as opposed to operational. And it's hard to be both, I think, in a company.
I would agree, yeah.
And so I can go in and be like, I don't have anything. For years, I didn't really have anything I had to do on a daily basis for the company. And that allows me the ability to look at the company without the weight of, I got to get all this stuff done, and be like, hey, this I'm going to dig into this. It doesn't really look like it's working that well. You know, maybe we should change some things.
Working on the business instead of in the business.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, that's simultaneously helpful and incredibly annoying to my employees, because it asks a lot of them to change. But that's part of how I think how you do it all as well is
delegation.
Yeah, delegation, and doing is I guess delegation is a good way to put it, because you're trying to get to where you can be working on the business instead of in the business as much as possible.
But so now you've been going from being working on it a lot, and now it seems like you're getting more and more part of it. So where do you find yourself working in it from time to time?
Well, the big things right now are things that I can't outsource that I just didn't work on before, which is financing. Like basically, what's our financial strategy in terms of do we need money to help finance to grow? To grow the business. So I've been doing a lot more with that. And then
that would really fall into your lap anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like we've had investors interested in investing in the company for years, and I've always kind of said, thank you, but no thank you. We this is kind of a side project. I don't have the time or capacity to have that extra pressure. And now I'm evaluating that more seriously because the goals of the company are now becoming my primary goals personally, as opposed to my athletic goals being my primary goals. And then the other thing that has been the biggest difference is I am just meeting with my employees all the time. I spend, we work 4 days in the office now. We have Wednesday work from home day, and at least Monday and Tuesday are pretty much just meeting with the various groups. So just trying to provide them more consistent direction, feedback, so they can make choices and just decisions quicker and hopefully more efficiently.
When it comes to like when you're talking about financing, and there's the obvious pro to getting funded is having more money and being able to grow the business, but there are some cons out there that maybe some entrepreneurs are listening to this that aren't too aware of. But what I could sense it in your voice, like there is the cons. What would you say those main cons are of taking the money to grow?
I mean, the main one is just giving up a lack of control, or even if it's not fully a lack of control, it's lack of independence. And I'm literally evaluating an investment deal right now, and the crucial question is, how much independence am I willing to give up for the investment? And it's not just that they're giving money. I mean, you also have people become advisors, and it can be very helpful outside of the actual money. But
they can also kind of turn into a bit of a unofficial boss.
Yeah.
Especially if they end up owning more than 51%, then they're an official boss.
Absolutely. And depending on how the deal is set up, they could have, even if they don't own 51%, they could have board seats, and they can have other kind of rights that
and they're looking at you like, why are you going to New Zealand?
Yeah.
Look, I'm racing. Yeah, but the company.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a big, it's a significant shift, and I'm not going into it lightly. I've heard, I think there are a lot of horror stories out there. There are a lot of successful stories.
There is. So, I just like to point out,
it's a balance.
Think of this. The pro obviously is like, being able to mass produce this stuff and have sales reps that are hired that you wouldn't be able to afford before. Because some sales people, like good ones, could be the most expensive aspect.
Absolutely.
So being able to hire those people that are on the East Coast and like getting in Canada and maybe Australia, all this stuff ends up becoming within the realm, and just watching it blow up. So obvious pro, but then you got to think of like, well, what are the cons with it? Because not everything is sunshine and rainbows. One thing I was curious on too is, so you have been sponsored by a bunch of companies professionally, including Red Bull and Jaybird and a few others. Have you ever ran into any conflict with any of your past sponsors or current sponsors because you're in the food space? Yeah.
I mean, actually, originally I was sponsored when my first year or two, I was sponsored by this company called First Endurance that was basically a fuel for exercise company. So it was pretty similar. They didn't make an energy bar. So all we had at that time was an energy bar. And but they made like kind of like gels and some hydration mixes and stuff like that. And ultimately, I talked to their owner. He was a really nice guy, Robert Coons, and he said, hey, we're looking at making an energy bar. I'd still be interested in sponsoring you. And and then ultimately, at that point, I decided, hey, it's probably best for me just to make a clean break. But at that time, I mean, Picky Bars, we were doing like 50,000 a year in sales. It was kind of a small deal.
At that point, was it it started in a home kitchen?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so, it was kind of, I had to decide at that. I mean, I look back on it now, and it was a more important decision now than it was at that point. And, for me to really make a break and be like, okay, I'm just going to stick with this. With Red Bull, there were some, concerns. They really like to own the term energy for their athletes. So do they
make any food though?
No,
Yeah.
But just even having energy bar was a little bit of a sticking
people
point.
Only
with them.
live off of Red Bull.
Yeah, no, totally. but they ultimately obviously were great, and they're a great partner for athletes. They were super supportive. So
yeah, they seem to be like the partner. They've established themselves.
Yeah, they really have, and they don't ask me to say or do anything that I don't believe in. I use the product very specifically as a kind of a tool in my toolbox for super high intensity workouts and at the end of my long hard races, and they've been totally great. So
what was a niche that the aha moment when you were thinking about Picky Bars, like, what, this isn't here? What was the thing that you were looking to fill?
Yeah, it was actually like most, if not all of the good ideas, it was Lauren's idea. And so what she saw was, or what ended up happening was, I started training to race triathlon. I was 29 years old. I just finished business school. It was kind of this like second wind, last crack at trying to be a professional athlete. And I was racing or training a whole bunch and eating 4,000 to 6,000 calories a day, and started having all these stomach issues.
That's so much food.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, when you're putting a lot of hours in, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And
were you living off of shakes?
No, I mean, a lot of like just power bars and
no wonder you're having stomach issues.
Yeah, I mean, all the
power bars, those things are like plastic.
Yeah, all the normal.
Sorry, power bar.
No, for sure. But I think stuff like that. And Lauren really thought that my not only my stomach, and I'd have better digestion, but also just feel better and feel healthier and have more energy if I ate more real food and less processed food. It's really easy to eat a ton of processed food when you're eating that much. It's broken down. It's highly packageable. And so Lauren wanted to create something that was balanced, kind of like a power bar,
but not made of plastic.
But not made of lab created ingredients. And that was the genesis of the Picky Bars. We kind of saw that you've got these like sports performance energy products, and then you've got these all natural products, and we kind of want to take the best of both of those for the endurance active person and give them an option, and that's what Picky Bar is.
So did you win your first Ironman before or after Picky Bar was created?
Well, after.
So obviously Picky Bars made you win Ironmans.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the reason.
Yes, reason, nothing else.
I got significantly better once I started eating Picky Bars.
Well, I mean, if you're going from eating plastic power bars to actual food, that's not too far. That's not a crazy assumption. It
really does. I mean, there's a real food movement across lots of categories, not just the endurance category, but lots of categories.
I know. I became vegan a year and a half ago.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like all about health. I was just nothing but a meat and cheese eating person for 30 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, no, I'm done. And I was like, so there is a big movement going, and it's awesome. And I love your guys' food too. Do you have any core philosophies or principles that you adhere to with the business or with training?
Yeah. I guess our mission as a business is to fuel great experiences. So for us, that's, it's a little bit of a play on words. We're literally fueling you with nutritious products. But I think also a big part of our brand tenets and what we strive to do is to educate, inspire, support, and entertain. And that's, exemplified by our social media. A ton of our marketing, our content is all based around doing those things. How do you start in a triathlon, or the one that we posted yesterday was these two little dates going on a date. And so that's clearly in the entertainment, in the entertainment realm. And all of that, as a lot of companies, is a reflection of the founders. And I think Lauren and I have, become known in our respective sports as, professionals that are pursuing the sport at a high level, but down to earth, relatable, educational for the aspirational competitor. And I think the brand is a reflection of that as well. High performance, but relatable, down to earth. So
how did, just going back to when you were talking about Lauren's idea of getting the company going, and it was pretty much to fuel you, it sounds like.
Yeah.
It was there, she's like, oh yeah, I'm also going to start mass producing these, or did that come a little later?
It was a very, ironically, I had just finished business school, and there was no semblance of a business plan in any way, shape, or form.
A lot of times that's how it is.
Yeah.
I didn't have one when starting this business. I was just like, there is a need for digital marketing that's not being filled. I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
And there wasn't this big, thick business plan. I think a lot of people who are looking to start companies and everything, they think they need to have a 30-page business plan. And it's just like, are you even going to read that when you're done with it?
Absolutely.
And if that's what's holding you back, then stop right now. But then going back to you guys, okay, so she was thinking this could be a company, or did that come a bit later?
It kind of came a little bit later. What ended up happening was she started making the bars. Her and Steph, the other co-founder, they were both coaching this Thursday night community run, and they started bringing some of them to try. And people at the run, they'd get 30 to 50 people show up to this run or group workout. They were like, hey, we really like these. We'd like to buy them. And
what were you packaging them in?
Just in little dime bags.
So they're like drug dealers.
literally these tiny Ziploc bags, single serve Ziploc bags. And and to be honest, I wasn't really involved. Other than eating them.
Did you have a kitchen's license at that point? Okay.
Yes, Lauren and Steph had all gotten that set up.
Are you just saying that because we're on?
No, they had. They had started when they started selling them. They started to look into it, and then when I got involved was with helping them start to scale the recipes, basically with some spreadsheets, and then helping them price it. They were, I remember specifically overhearing a conversation of them figuring out, how much should we charge, and my ears kind of perking up, being like, oh, I think that's probably, you guys aren't going to charge enough,
right?
And then I started helping there, and then I built the website to start and kind of set up all the payments, set up the things that we could actually start selling them, the systems. For me, it was really interesting.
Were you first selling them online, or did you get into who was your first client? A coffee shop?
Our first customer is this woman named Maggie Smith, who has been a supporter of ours for a long time. She found out about the website from somebody, I can't remember, or had heard through the grapevine that we were doing this thing. We hadn't even published it, but she found pickybars.com and ordered a batch, and I remember it showing up in
Where is she from?
PayPal thing. She's from the East Coast.
Really?
Yeah, so she was just a fan of Lauren and Steph, and she ordered a box or whatever, and I remember being like, whoa, we got an order from this woman on the East Coast, and it was awesome. And so it all started online, and at
that point, were you sending it to her in dime bags? Little plastic bag?
Yeah, literally. Okay, we had...
did you have a nutrition label on the bag? Okay.
So the regulations are you can have resealable packaging as long as you have to... as long as there is basically like a sticker or something that has to be torn before it's opened the first time.
Okay.
So we had the dime bag, and then we wrapped this sticker over the top of the...
Got it.
Of the the bag, and that was it.
This is really valuable because
Yeah.
you have so many people that might have that idea, whether it's food or anything else on getting started, and just like, well, I need to have this massive website, and I need to go and get all this like really good. Look at this awesome packaging you have and everything
that's
like
years
that.
and years later.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you just got to do it.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Whenever I meet with entrepreneurs who ask me, what should I do? What are the next steps? I always go, what's your quickest, what's your lowest cost, quickest way to validate the next step? The whether that's the product or the customer or whatever it is. Don't get ahead of yourself. And for better and for worse, that's exactly what we did with Picky Bars. I mean, this packaging, this packaging on Picky Bars, which is
like the 5th iteration, maybe more.
I think it's a 5th or 6th iteration of the packaging, right?
Right.
And so we're in year 8,
right?
And so it's getting,
cool.
hopefully getting better and better. Yeah, as you guys can see it, but
I remember
same thing
when you guys had it as like mountains, of like around here being Bend, and then
we had a brown wrapper at one point that said "It's freaking science, dude" on it, and then we had those stickers that I talked about. I actually created the first packaging, which was a little circle graphic that I made in PowerPoint that said 3 stars Picky Bars, which is totally terrible and embarrassing now to look back on, because there were 3 of us that started the company, and now 3 stars is synonymous with all 5-star rating systems is not that good. So it's funny when I look back at those pictures.
And picky comes from
just being super picky about the ingredients,
right,
and the nutritional profile. The other inside story is we actually the original plan from Lauren and Steph was to create custom energy bars. So using a base of dried fruit or whatever, but then what type of nut butters do you want? What type of nuts or allergens are you avoiding? And that was what we originally started looking at, and then we were actually making bars to custom order for some of those people that I mentioned in the running group. And then I just started modeling, very basically how that could or could not scale, and more or less figured out that was going to be a really tough business to scale. So we decided on, hey, these are the 3 most normal combos that people really dig, and those were the 3 flavors that we kind of launched with, and then we built it out since there.
Okay, that makes me want to touch on decision making.
Yeah.
Okay, so when entrepreneurs starting out, whenever anybody talks with me, they have all these questions that they don't know the answers to, and you guys basically have all these brand, just from looking at the brand that's going on here in the packaging, you have tons of decisions to be made just on these 3, just on what's going on here.
Right.
When you're talking about, okay, should we have a mountain bike guy?
Yeah.
And then the girl, the 5 iterations, what does it say? The 3 stars, all sort of stuff. How do you go about making decisions on all of this stuff? And we're just talking about the packaging. Yeah. There's so much more to be said, but just to make it simpler, how do you go about making decisions?
I always start, my decision process is always, what data can we look at to help us make the decision? In the face of lack of data, which is very normal.
It is.
You usually say, well, how expensive is it to test a couple different things, or can we get some type of basic test?
Well, with social media now, it's become very simple to do that. Yeah,
exactly.
And inexpensive.
Yeah, exactly. So, so for packaging, it would be like, hey, well, we don't know if we wanted to say energy on this little subtitle thing, or if we wanted to say real food or whatever. And so we would mock up a couple of those things and send them to a group of people and see what they think. And then, and that might help inform the decision. And then the last thing is always gut. And there's just a ton of gut on there. And, because it's really hard to get good information that actually gives you an answer, to really be able to test in a way that can give you a definitive answer. So I would say at least 50 to 60% of the decisions are just gut feel. And then
How long
you
does it
learn
take
after
you-
an iteration
How long does it take you on average to make one?
to make a decision.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, it totally depends on the decision.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's a broad question, but do you find yourself in general making them fast?
I think I've gotten better than I was. I'm in, I was an engineer in college, and I'm a very like analytical person. And so my strength and weakness as a business owner when I started was that I was really good at modeling things, but I really wanted to rely on a model that would tell me what the right answer was. And in business, it's so hard to do. There's so many variables. And so I used to be paralyzed by that a lot. And
I see
it was
that
hard
happen.
for me
I
to
see
make
that happen to
decisions.
so many
Yeah.
entrepreneurs all the time,
Yeah.
or managers,
Yeah.
or even just anybody.
Yeah.
Where any of my team members, anything like that, they're like, "Well, I'm just not sure what to do." I was like, and the way I look at it, not saying I'm right, but this is just the way that I'm wired now, is just make a decision. Let's go with it, and we can always come back and fix
Yeah.
it later. Like with you guys, you made a decision on packaging, but we're on iteration 6.
Yeah.
You can always change. You can always
Exactly.
pivot later.
Yeah, and we're on iteration 3 of this iteration of packaging. I mean,
Right.
so there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And I think the more decisions you make, the more comfortable you become with making them in the face of lack of information, and going with your gut. And I feel like I have gotten better at that over the years.
I've seen just from all the products that you guys are launching and how you guys grown and everything like that, that comes. I mean, if you don't make decisions, then nothing gets done, right? So there's
a real cost to the lack of decision making or the time involved in making a decision. It's a legitimate cost. So I think I try. If I think of it that way, then it fits into the algorithm, and then I am cognizant of it, and then I'm like, okay, I got to make the decision. Otherwise, I'm ultimately costing myself more than there is to be gained by choosing X versus Y. So
what is so from whether in the Picky Bar life or the professional athlete life, what's been the biggest failure you've had to overcome?
Picky Bars, man, we've had some big ones that we have shockingly survived. We were I can think of 2 actually real quick, just quick stories, but we got picked up we had an incoming email from a buyer at Trader Joe's late 2015. It was literally, we got it 3 days after I won my first Ironman. So I wasn't even in the country. And I was riding a high, and it was nuts. But anyway, this woman wanted to bring us into Trader Joe's. We were very excited. We went through all the back and forth. Right as we were kind of got in there and just started to launch, they had a new buyer come in and replace the woman that brought us on. And that woman, long story short, ended up dropping us within like 10 weeks
That's a bummer.
of launching. And we had
So now you have access to inventory.
tons, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra inventory that we were just sitting on.
And what's the shelf life?
A year.
Okay.
So there was no way at that point we were gonna sell through it. So that was a huge, and in that stage I thought I was going from like $1.5 million business to like an $8 million business, and I had even though I had been cautious and I knew that the new buyer was going to be risky, I had still scaled up my staff, our supply chain, everything to help accommodate to that to a certain extent. And then we just retracted immediately to a $2 million business again. And so that was really hard. And we paid for that for years in hindsight. I was overstaffed for a long time. I thought we were kind of going to be okay. So that was a big one.
What did you what'd you learn from that?
I think caution in evaluating big customers,
Right.
and taking on a big customer. I
The
still would have
elephants.
done, I still would have done it 100%. It ended up being a net positive for us. We got a whole bunch of exposure. I would have been, the other thing I learned is I would have been way more proactive about managing that relationship with Trader Joe's myself. I think in hindsight, I was too, hey, my sales marketing person has this, they're managing the relationship. That was way too important of a business, of a part of the business for me not to be heavily involved in. And I would have priced us a little bit more competitively. Didn't really know what we were doing. We'd been at REI at $3 for forever, or for at least a few years. Had been seemingly successful there, and I really pushed. I wanted us to be $2.49 at Trader Joe's. I think they eventually put us at $2.39, but we were like up. We were next to RX Bar at like $1.99. It was just like, it was really obvious, like a big difference there. So that was tough, but yeah.
So that's like this big failure, but the company's still standing. How is it looking back at that? Just looking back and all the late nights that you probably had, analyzing what's going on. The doomsday scenarios that probably were going through your head, correct me if I'm wrong, but if that was happening to me, and I'm working on this daily, like don't let your mind go into this tailwind of like losing a client. Well, that means we're going to lose these other ones, and then all of a sudden we're going to go out of business, and then we'll be selling the sign off the building. Right? Like it's where your mind can go. Did you notice yourself going there?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of sleepless nights. I think.
But now you look at it like you guys are doing great, and that was back in 2015, and here we're in 2019. Yeah, and the company's still around. You're still breathing. Your family's still healthy. Yeah, right.
No, for sure.
And you gave a bunch of really good lessons that you learned from it, like managing huge client relationships yourself when they're like that important. Learning about like what happens when you end up overstaffing and what kind of hit that has on the bottom line. And then the positives that you were able to pull from it, like the exposure that you got from it. And I'm sure that it ended up leading to other contacts.
Definitely.
From, people that just saw you in Trader Joe's for 10 weeks?
Yeah.
That's a lot of different people that could end up seeing it that might up being contacts on social media or whatever that could have led to different things.
Absolutely. Like I said, overall, it was a net positive. I think it was a tough storm to weather, financially, obviously, and then also expectation wise of really kind of thinking that, hey, we had hit this, we'd kind of skipped 2 or 3 steps, and now we're up at this thing where it's really taking off. I think, to answer your question, athletics brings you, being a competitive athlete for my entire life makes those things easier, because I've had lots of really big failures or times when I didn't live up to or compete or perform up to my expectation, and I put a shit ton of work and blood, sweat, and tears into it, and ultimately I've seen how through my career, you can bounce back from those things, and that helps in business a lot.
And just things that you learn from it. So why didn't I win this race? Well, if I would have trained this way, if I would have adjusted my sleep schedule, if I would have had more fuel, if this, and that, and then you learn from that and you're able to apply it going forward. You end up getting so much stuff from books. Like you go into business school, and you end up learning all these different things, but it's not until you actually start doing it that you really, and from your failures, that you really start taking things home. And whether that's in business or just in life. Like, for example, I kind of knew before I got into mountaineering like 11 years ago that you shouldn't be wearing cotton. But then I did wear cotton, and hiked up the South Sisters, my first like mountain or whatever. It was just a hike. But still, I did it covered in jeans. We started late. Started at 3:00. We didn't have any picky bars or any food. Not lack of water, and damn near almost died. Like hypothermia. Didn't look at the time. Watch the sunset. I was actually content looking at the sunset over the Sisters, being like, oh, I could die here. It's all right.
Yeah.
And my friend's just like, we're going down the mountain. You're losing your mind.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
now whenever I'm out mountaineering or backpacking or mountain biking, there's no cotton on me except for a bandana that absorbs sweat.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned. I've heard about it in books and from people kind of talking about it, but it wasn't from actually doing it where that's a staple. Like, I will not do that
Absolutely.
again. So kind of fascinating stuff.
There's no swap out for just experience. That's definitely the most valuable thing. And I take that from, as a guy that got an MBA, and, doing is so much, not that my MBA was not valuable, because it was, but doing has been much more valuable than the MBA itself.
I was a major in geology and I minored in business. And the business part was just so ridiculous. The classes, like, this is what a manufacturer does. This is what a transportation company does. I'm like, okay.
Right.
Okay. Like, it just didn't apply at all. And the geology thing, I actually love that I did, even though I'm not applying it to this marketing company. It's just great to like have an understanding of why things are beautiful.
Yeah.
And when I climb and do stuff, I'm like, that's why that's beautiful instead of that's beautiful. So I don't regret it at all. What is your favorite? Let's start with, what is actually your least favorite thing about living in Bend?
Oh, my least favorite.
Yeah. Everyone talks about how awesome it is here, but
I hate to say this because it makes me just sound like the crotchety old guy that's been here for forever.
It's growing too much.
It's growing. But it's not that I don't appreciate the growth, because I do. But and people ask me all the time, well, what do you think? It's growing. And there are a lot of crotchety old guys that have been here for a long time that really, really hate it. I like the growth, probably 80-90% of it, and then there are parts of it that start and bug me. Just mostly just the number of people out in the places where I used to feel a little bit more alone.
Yeah, the solitude seems to be like
Yeah.
a bit gone at places like Green Lakes and the hidden lake at Broken Top, which isn't very hidden anymore.
Even
Instagram
just
made
Phil's
that very
trails,
fun.
or like the old mill loop around town. I mean, I used to do all my hard workouts out through, in and around the old mill, and don't even think about trying to run fast, through the old mill during the summer now. I mean, it's just lined with people, walking their dogs and having their kids, which is great.
Yeah.
It's all great. So it's really like, that's what I say. It's like kind of, they're silly things to complain about for what the growth has brought Bend. It's a silly thing to complain about. Oh man, I had to ride around 4 people when I was going up Ben's Trail. Like, I mean, come on, give me a break. You still have Ben's Trail out there.
Yeah, you're a machine, Jesse.
Well,
you're probably riding a road bike up Ben's Trail, which, by the way, Ben's Trail is a mountain bike route.
Yeah, totally.
Jesse's probably on a road bike going up it.
It's a silly thing to complain about. So, I don't, for the most part, I'm appreciative of the growth of Bend. It's allowed us to be here, have more opportunity here, have Picky Bars here. It's good.
What's your least favorite thing about owning a business in Bend?
The first thing that popped into my mind was and it's another thing actually that bothers me about Bend, is just the income pressure that we have from the Bay Area and to a certain extent from Portland and Seattle. Because Bend is such a beautiful place that people want to move to, they want to retire to, and because of its proximity to the Bay and Seattle, we just get a lot of very wealthy people that move up here, and it drives the prices of living way up. And it's really hard for
my team
a
members.
business owner.
Yeah, it's hard for my team members.
Yeah, I mean, I can't afford to pay. I'm not going to pay a salary that's anywhere competitive to any of those places. And you got
I'm
a lot
in the
of
same boat, and
a lot
I
of
think a lot of
people.
entrepreneurs are.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's hard to, I can pay you X, but on X, man, you're not going to be able to live on the west side of Bend.
No.
And that's a tough, that's probably the hardest thing.
Okay. So enough on the negative stuff on it. It's just everybody talks about the positive, and it's like there is bad things about it. But
absolutely.
Your favorite thing about running a business in Bend?
Just that I get to authentically, legitimately walk the walk, and and with that, I mean that we're all about like work-life balance and enjoying the great outdoors and all that type of stuff. And we get to do that here. I mean, I was out, we were just talking about it on Monday or Tuesday. I went for a 6 or 8 mile run with my sales director from our office door on the like beautiful snow-packed trail along, the river. And it was like, 50-minute run that would be in a magazine somewhere, and it was from our doorstep in the middle of the day at work. That's really incredible. That's lucky.
Yeah. I'll run into my team members up on Bachelor during like our powder days. It's like more than 4 inches, and we're out there like skiing for the morning, and then we'll just work later into the night.
Exactly.
And just being able to be like in here with big smiles on our faces because we were able to do that instead of being in here hating life, because that is happening. It's brought a lot of happiness to my life, and I know to theirs. From our location here too, I sometimes just get on my mountain bike in the summer and we'll go straight from here and hit up Phil's trail.
Same.
And I'll do like an hour or two and then come back in and start working.
Absolutely.
Be a little sweaty, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's like standard Bend, material. I don't think anybody cares, If you smell from your mountain bike ride, people are more like, hey, that's cool. Where'd you go?
Yeah, exactly. So I know a bunch of your employees, and they all seem to love you a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. None of them say anything bad. I never even pry at that, but it's always good things. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I was going to say they probably don't know me very well. I don't know that that's true, but I think we have generated a positive work environment for sure. I do consciously try to be a positive leader in the company, and simultaneously lead by example, work really hard, but also give people, try to understand and give people the appropriate amount of independence and the appropriate amount of guidance. I think there's a lot of people that say, everybody wants to be really independent and make their own decisions and think for themselves and yada yada yada. And to a certain extent, because I was racing and training so much for a number of years at the company, I almost gave like too much leeway. And what I found was that my employees actually struggled with that. They wanted more direction. They were unsure about whether they were making the right decision or not, and they felt like, oh man, not necessarily that there was going to be like negative consequences if they made the wrong decision, but like they would like more input from me in helping them make that decision. So how do
you balance that fine line between direction and micromanagement?
It depends on the person, to a certain extent. And it depends on the decision, I think what I've tried to do is, like I alluded to earlier, the most important thing that I can do in my business as the owner and the CEO is to provide the appropriate amount of guidance and feedback to my employees. And so making sure the most important times in my business for me are the meetings that I have. And we have a leadership meeting, we have a marketing meeting, we have a sales meeting, we have an ops and finance meeting, we have an all staff meeting. So there's whatever that is, 4 or 5 meetings a week and those happen every week. We've got an agenda where, people know what they're supposed to bring to me. I know what I'm supposed to bring to the meeting. And I think that regular cadence takes a lot of, both helps me understand what type of feedback they need and what type of feedback they don't.
How do you keep meetings interesting?
Or
do you?
I mean, we try, interesting, it might be a stretch. I mean, I think we try to start off every meeting with one cool thing. And so
everybody goes around and says one cool thing.
One cool thing. What happened over the last week? it's, you know, probably mostly professional, you know, but might be personal. So that's kind of a way to like break the ice and also a way for me to somewhat strategically think about what type of actions or results do I want to highlight to make sure that people notice that or are aware that I'm noticing them and that they matter to me. And so that's one thing that we do. And then we try to keep it casual, but then we also, I've been really working on having my team, like I said, have kind of an agenda and just a rolling, this is how the meeting is structured. And so we make sure that they don't go too long. I think that's the main thing that kills meetings is just when people feel like they're in there for forever and they don't know when the end is going to be.
I find that happens a lot in rabbit holes.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Yeah.
How do you they happen in all meetings.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to pull it out.
Yeah.
How do you go about
let's
doing
sideline this. Let's put it up. Let's set up another meeting to talk
so
about.
It sounds like the structure the structure probably helps eliminate a lot of rabbit holes to begin with, a lot of those tangents.
Yeah.
But I'll notice that like we have structure too to our meeting, and and all of a sudden we were talking about marketing, and one thing led to another, and now we're into hiring a new person for account management.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to deal with marketing.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I'm like, and I just sit back. I'm like, wait, how did we get here?
Yeah. I think it happens all the time. I mean, it's pretty standard group group discussion. I mean, you just have to be cognizant of it, you know, and I think that's what I try to do. What is the point of this meeting? If we have something that's diverging from it significantly, you know, we've got to, I really try to stick to that time frame of whatever it is, 30 to 60 minutes that we've set up for that specific meeting. And if it looks like something's bringing us, it's going to take us long, then we need to table it and discuss it, set up a different time to discuss it.
So they weekly meetings where at the end of it, everybody has like action items that they're responsible for that week?
That's ideally how it works. What I try to do, our planning process is we basically do quarterly planning. And to a certain extent, we try to plan the quarter specifically, and then the next 3 quarters out more broadly. And so the next kind of rolling year will have major objectives for the next 3 quarters, but then the quarter itself will have really specific goals. Rocks, they're called. If you've read Traction,
I have.
And
Get a Grip is right behind you, actually.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, it's all based, and there are lots of different kind of business.
So you guys have level 10
like
meetings, I take it then.
What's that?
You guys have level 10 meetings then, I take it.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't. Yeah.
That's the Traction meeting. So you have like IDS.
Yeah.
Identify, discuss, solve. It's a really good framework to keep meetings on track, and it also helps with. That's an interesting question. So when it comes to EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System, are you full in, balls deep on it?
No.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I went full in,
and
now we just have a few things that have kind of stuck around. It was hard to keep it going.
I think we have I try to keep the main principles, the simple principles, keep those going, keep those regular. For me, it's like making sure everybody has clear quarterly objectives or goals. And then that at every weekly meeting, we are re-referencing those quarterly objective goals. So every week we're like, okay, sales, what are we working on this quarter?
And then, those are called rocks.
Yeah, those are called rocks. And then we go into, okay, these are the things that we're working on this week, and the reason we're working on them is because of what we set up here. And I think, it's certainly anything but perfect, but I think we're getting closer, we're getting better.
What do you think is mentioning Traction, Get a Grip, both EOS, Gino Wickman, as far as business goes, what do you think has been the most impactful book?
It's been a really long time, but I read and I actually haven't read any of these books. I listened to all of them on audiobook.
It's fine. When you consume them.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm out riding my bike or whatever. But the E-Myth.
I haven't heard of that one.
Hey, you haven't? it was a basic. It's very similar to all these other things, which is basically like you start as an entrepreneur, you do it all yourself.
Okay.
And you need to.
Yeah, you're the janitor.
Yeah.
You're the owner. You're the salesman.
You need to figure out
you're packaging picky bars in dime bags and putting stickers on it.
Exactly.
You're the packager.
What things can you eventually start to, offload, delegate, whatever, and what does it take to successfully do that? And that's where I really first started thinking about the business as kind of this growing thing that was me working through all these different areas of the business and then passing them off to people. And
is that easy for you?
yeah, probably. Yeah, for the most part, probably to a certain extent, too easy. I think sometimes.
Well, that's a big key to growth, though.
Yeah, it is. But
if you're the one that's doing everything, we can't.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jesse, but unless you start cloning yourself.
Yeah.
So it's
No,
actually,
I think
I see it as a big strength of yours.
it is, but it can be a weakness to a certain extent. Like I said, I think that if anything, Picky Bars has suffered from a lack of oversight in some of the decisions that we've made, or that employees have made, or that we've made collectively as a group, by just putting a lot of really inexperienced people in positions where they were making decisions over their head, and and those decisions cost us. Having said that, that's kind of what we could afford to do at the time, and that's the nature of me doing it part time as I'm competing. But we've had problems with that too. So
if you weren't able though to allow those people to do that, especially with you competing, then there wouldn't be a company. In my opinion.
Totally. That's the thing. You have to roll with it, and ultimately growth comes at a cost, both from both the company's growth and the professional growth of people making those decisions. They've got to learn on their own too. And if I can't afford to pay 6-figure salaries to people that have been there for 15, 20 years, which I can't, then I'm going to get 5-figure salaries making mistakes and learning on the job, and that's kind of part of it. So
it is.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on like mentorship?
It's great.
Do you have any?
Do I personally have mentors? Tons. I rely on. I'm hopefully not so much that like squeaky wheel that's always kind of reaching out to the people that I admire, that I respect. But yeah, I mean, I have probably 5 or 6.
Who are some of them?
Great business people that I would consider mentors. Scott Allen in town.
Nice.
I'm working with the Bend Outdoor Works group right now. So Eric Mead and Will Blunt is part of that too. And then Kevin Rutherford at Noon is the CEO of Noon is one of my main guys. And
so Scott Allen. He started Hydro Flask.
Yeah.
And
he was he didn't start it. He was brought in by the investor owner group.
Oh.
Yeah, a few years into it. Yeah, I forget the
Helen of Troy.
Yeah, no. Well, so he was brought in by the investor group, which was I think led by Jim Collins, and I think they were a few years in to the business. I can't remember exactly how much, maybe a couple few $1 million in revenue, but he is the person that was at the helm when it really grew to what it is now, and then has since been acquired by Helen of Troy.
Okay, cool. So my mistake there, but he's been instrumental basically in Hydro Flask, which is arguably one of Ben's biggest companies, or maybe it is the biggest.
It might be the biggest.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. So excellent mentor to have. How about that relationship start?
So when I first moved to town, there's a organization called Opportunity Knocks, which is basically
I'm in that too.
People that are in.
Are you still in it?
Ideally similar companies and similar jobs within those companies, right? And so I had heard that there was this group that were all CEOs and owners that included Scott Allen, Will Blunt, who is the president of Roughwear, Eric Mead, who had owned Entreprise Climbing Systems, Dave Chun, who is the owner of Kealoha, or co-owner with his wife, and a few other people that I respected. And so there was this group, and I knew that the group existed. When I moved to town, I said I wanted to be in Opportunity Knocks, and then they were like, "Well, the group's full." I was like, "You can be in this group or this group," and I basically just waited, and I waited for
an opening.
9 or 10 months, and then eventually an opening came up, and I jumped in that group and got to know those guys, and that was basically it. And Scott's he's a really generous person with his time and expertise. So it's a lot of it has to do with just him as a person being available.
How valuable do you think that's been?
Huge. I think huge. Opportunity. Like, I'm not in it anymore, but for that first few years, it was really valuable to have.
Same with me. I quadrupled, I would say.
Yeah.
During the first few years I was with Opportunity Knocks.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I didn't give the majority of credit to that group.
Yeah. I think it can be really, when you're trying to run a company or guide a company, it can be kind of lonely to a certain extent. And so
it's lonely at the top, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so just having some people that you can confide in, or, that can help you with the specific questions you have as an owner or CEO is really valuable.
Speaking of that, how it's lonely at the top, how close are you outside of work with your team members?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we're all friendly. It's a small enough group,
right?
I
just asked, I ran into a mistake when I got this company going, where I was really good friends and going out with some of my employees, and that burned me.
Yeah.
I learned the hard way that you can be friendly with them.
Yeah.
But when it came to like getting really close, it created all sorts of drama.
Yeah. I think you do have to be cognizant of that. I'm more cognizant of it now than I was 5 years ago.
It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But it's true.
No, it totally is. It totally is. I think we're, it just depends on who it is. I have people now there that have been there for 4 or 5 years who are just, you work with somebody for 4 or 5 years, you're going to be, hopefully you're going to be friends with them.
Right.
If not, it's probably not that much fun to work with them. But, yeah, I mean, I am cognizant of that, of just walking that line of being friendly. There are things that we do socially, but I don't spend a ton of time outside of maybe 1 or 2 people who we just overlap with as friends, but also just share common, mountain biking or whatever, stuff like that we're doing together. And but yeah, I think you have to think about it. There's a line to walk there for sure.
So, advice to your younger self. A lot of people just say like, "Hey, what's some advice to your younger self?" I like to have people really think about this because it's kind of a fascinating question. How old are you now, Jesse?
38.
Okay, so you're 38. So of all the knowledge you have right now, at 38, what would you do if you had your brain in an 18-year-old Jesse?
Yeah. I think when I was younger, it goes back to something we talked about already, but I think when I was younger, I would get really anxious about making the right decision to move forward in terms of whatever I was trying to do, whether I was trying, what type of racing should I do, or what type of job should I try to get, how should I train, how should I whatever. And because I was an analytical person, I wanted to have that algorithm or that formula that told me this is the right answer when I've optimized all the variables.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back at myself, I think I could have saved myself a lot of time, a lot of mental anguish, and a lot of energy by just being like, hey man, relax, like life is long. you're gonna make a ton of mistakes.
Life is long.
Yeah.
Normally I hear it the other way around.
Yeah.
I like that though.
Yeah, I mean,
But
yeah.
no, you do have plenty of time to make mistakes.
You
and come
have
back
lots
from
of
it.
time to make mistakes, and there are gonna be lots of decisions that you make that are wrong, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And weird, I didn't think of it that it would make me pivot this way, but I look at my son right now who's 5, and I see that time. I see, there are parts of me. Every parent sees parts of themselves and their kids. There are some ways that he's like me, and there's some ways that he's totally different. But I do see he right now is kind of going through this really like perfectionist phase with certain things. And for example, he just made all these Valentine's Day things for Valentine's Day yesterday, and he was really concerned about certain parts of the Valentines if they weren't right, and kind of like needing to throw it away and like do another one. And I'm like, man, that I was like that in certain ways too. And if it wasn't like the right way, then it was like totally wrong. And I needed to start over, or I was really worried about making the right decision. And so hopefully I try to impart, on him. We had a whole long talk about how things don't have to be perfect. You just try your hardest and yada, yada, yada. But I don't know. That's what I'd say to myself.
So in a way, just like make decisions, live life. Don't get so worried about the details.
Yeah. And don't get so worried about being right, thinking that it really has to be perfect, I guess, or, because you're going to have a lot of opportunity to change. I guess an easy way to to visualize this is that when I was 18, let's say, and starting college, I had this trajectory that I thought I was going to be on for my life. And I had visions of where I was going to be working and things I was going to be doing. There is no way in hell I ever would have thought I would be a professional triathlete. I didn't even know what triathlon was. I would have own an energy bar company, Yeah,
you became professional, like you were saying, 29, right?
Yeah. And so, the amount of time that I spent thinking about, how is what I'm doing right now in my first quarter at Stanford, setting me up for what I'm going to do. I mean, you have no idea.
No.
And so it's just like
I thought
business.
I was going to be a volcanologist.
Yeah, so exactly.
I still could be. Who knows?
Yeah, you still could be.
Yeah.
It's just like business, though. You overthink these short-term decisions in terms of the impact that they're going to have. And you just, get the information you can, make the decision, and then just move on, because there's going to be so many other things that impact that you can't even anticipate.
And does that lead towards bliss, happiness, do you think?
I think so, because I think you're a little bit less pensive, less worked up in your decision-making process, and probably just more relaxed. It's a very typical like Zen, just enjoying the process, being in the moment. And I think my brain chemistry tends not to be in the moment. It tends to be 4 to 8 steps ahead and thinking about how am I optimizing that 8th step with the step that I'm taking right now. And there's value to that, but there's a lot of distraction to that as well.
Do you meditate?
I do, not as much as I should. But when I'm feeling particularly anxious, I do before I race. Sometimes just at work, if I'm feeling like I'm spinning wheels in front of my, inbox or something, I'm just not doing anything, then I just head out. Usually just for a walk is enough, just to, with my phone left at the, left in the office. That usually helps. So
how does it help?
I think getting your mind away from the stimulus can help then it refocus on the things that matter. And that's what I constantly try to remind myself of, because as a business owner with so many things we have going on, and there's so many ways that you can receive stimulus, from your employees talking to emails to, whatever, people just walking in the door. It's important for me to always just take a step back and be like, well, okay, what am I trying? What's important for me to accomplish? And so I feel like every day I just I don't even turn on my computer. I sit down in front of my desk and I just write down the 3 things I want to do today.
Nice.
And I start working on those prior to even looking at my inbox or talking to an employee or whatever.
I do that
You know?
too. I'll
Yeah.
have a list of 3 things
Yeah.
or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got rid of my Evernote list because
Yeah.
it just gets too
It's
big.
too long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a Google Keep list, same
Yeah.
thing, just a
Yeah.
competitor. Freaking went on forever.
Yeah.
I then did the same thing with Trello. I'm like, oh, this will be different.
yeah. yeah.
So now I just jot down a little sticky note and
Yeah.
I work on those things. And I know they're the most important things.
Yeah.
And it's very gratifying to cross them off. And that's if those are the most important things for the day, then that's what you should
nailed
work
it.
on.
Yeah, you've nailed it. And then that's I really believe that your mind, like if you just sit there and you close your eyes and you think, what am I supposed to work on? Your mind will remember the most important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need like a list to look back on that. All that ends up doing is you just get reminded of the 25 other things that you didn't get to, and then it jumbles up. It messes up what you actually should be focusing on.
And then sometimes you just end up looking at that list on Evernote, like that's 25 things going.
It's overwhelming.
Shit.
Yeah. yeah.
What the
Exactly.
fuck do I mean, sorry
Yeah.
for swearing, but
Yeah.
I'll look at that and I'll just be like,
Yeah.
where do I even start? I don't even know where to start. And then sometimes I'll go through and audit those things back before I was doing this short list, and I'll be like, a lot of this stuff is not relevant anymore.
Yeah, totally.
I like completely not relevant.
Yeah.
Either they took care of it,
Yeah.
or I subconsciously did
Yeah.
at another
Or,
date,
or you just don't care about it anymore.
or I just
whatever.
don't care
Yeah,
about
exactly.
it anymore.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
It's pretty fascinating. What would you say to people that say, I will be happy when I start my own company? That's the key. The key is for me having my own company, and that will bring me happiness.
I don't know. I mean, I think if you believe that, then try it out. I mean, it's a lot easier to. We talked a little bit about this, but people get caught up in the complexity of, like we said, oh man, how am I going to do packaging, this and that? I think what's the shortest, least costly, most efficient way to proving the next question of your business? And that's what I would start doing. Another one of somebody that wouldn't really call a mentor, because we don't we don't interact that often, but somebody that I really respect and who's a friend of mine is this guy named Sami Inkinen. And Sami is the co-founder of Trulia, which was a big, Zillow competitor. And he was also he won the age group Ironman World Championships, while he was leading Trulia to hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. I mean, it's just incredible person, and a really down to earth guy, nice guy. And he told me once, he gave me this analogy that was basically the running and I'm probably going to butcher it, so sorry, Sami. He wouldn't listen to this thing anyway, but navigating through a business is kind of like navigating through a maze, and you can try to have some way where you can see all the turns down the road, but ultimately it's so complex that the only way to really optimize speed through it is basically how they've done with these little robots that basically they just run into a wall, then they check the next wall, then they check the next wall, and then they go to the open one.
Okay.
And then they just keep going, and they navigate through the entire way, and that's how they do it. And so it's basically your success is dependent more on your rate of failure than anything else. Whoever can fail the quickest and then learn from that mistake, those are the people that are most successful in business, because it's so hard to anticipate all the variables that you will have to navigate.
I think that goes back to what we've hit on 4 times now. It's decision making, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so make them fast and adjust.
Yeah, exactly.
The robot getting through the maze is just not that way. Okay, now that way, no. Now that way, no. Oh, this is the way.
Exactly.
And it's just okay, if that didn't work, then just adjust quickly.
Yeah.
And don't freak out about it, because you can end up making so many iterations of different packaging, and you can make different types of food and stuff like that. But going into finishing up, I was just curious on the granola that you're launching.
Yeah.
So how long has that been out?
This has been online for I think about 4 weeks today. So yeah, this is our performance granola. This was created with us and with a woman in town who is a very successful chef and cookbook author. Her name is Lise Kopecky. So she co-founded this cookbook.
Product?
Yeah, a cookbook called Run Fast, Eat Slow with Shalane Flanagan, who's one of the best,
I know of
if
it.
not the best American distance runner ever. And Elise is famous for her granolas. She helped create this granola specifically for us, specifically for me, because I'm a peanut butter and jelly addict. And it's just like all of our products, very nutritionally balanced, healthy, low in added sugar, all real food, base ingredients, and tastes really, really good. We launched it. It's really successful. Great feedback so far, so I'm really happy about it. For me, that whole thing is just like, I want to be a brand, and I want to have a kind of a place in your pantry, on different shelves, and people to feel confident and enjoy consuming our products, both from a taste standpoint but also from a function standpoint. Do you feel good? Is it helping fuel your exercise and stuff like that? So,
Do you have any thing in the works cooking up that you're excited about?
yeah, we've got another granola flavor that I'll just say will be a ginger molasses flavor. It's actually based on one of Elise's most popular flavors, but we've got a funny flavor name that'll be coming out that I don't want to say yet because I like to save that for when we get the packaging out there publicly. But if people are interested, the backbone of our business and the most important part of the business to me personally is our subscription service called the Picky Club. It's super unique. You can subscribe to any specific SKU in any volume that you want every 1, 2, or 3 months, and the more that you subscribe to, the bigger discounts you get, and then you can change it month to month.
I love that kind of stuff because then I don't have to go shopping.
Yeah, it's great, and it ships for free. And
I'm all
it's
about simple. If I don't have to go to the store, I'm happy.
It's a great service, and like I said, the most unique aspect of our business actually, and valuable aspect, and but we give perks to those people that are in that subscription service. I kind of call them, because we don't have investors yet, they're basically like our investors. They're our repeat customers. They're the people that are really like the most important customers, and we will in March or April have. We'll send out a sample of that granola to those people kind of, before it even is available to the public. We like to send stuff out and get feedback from them. What do you think? Should we change anything? And then the next month it will be available online. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So you guys have granola coming. Do you have anything in your head, like a few years down the line, like, man, it'd be cool if we launched a gummy or a drink or...
Yes. We drink. I mean, there are a lot of categories we're looking at. Yeah, for sure. We're more in the real food space. So I think for us, for me personally, I like all kinds of snacks, like trail mixes and nut butters and different complementary food items that athletic or active people eat on a regular basis. So we'll be other forms of bars. This one is really built around like fueling you in and around exercise. We might have one that's more of kind of a general, snack based bar. So we'll take a look.
Well, I'm excited because I'm a big fan of you guys. I always use them when I'm mountain biking and skiing. Oh yeah, they're my go-to. I always feel like that. I don't know why compared to a Cliff Bar, but I've eaten a lot of those. But when I eat a Picky Bar, I just get probably 10%, maybe even 20% more energy of just an explosion going, especially when I'm going uphill and I'm starting to die.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And I'm excited for all the other products you have coming out. And Jesse, it was a pleasure having you on, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for watching Torquem Talk. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please hit subscribe and or follow to be notified when we launch our next episode. Have a good one.